Hello,
Right, I was muted.
how are you?
Yep, good. I need to work on my background for a second. Yeah, I relocated to a new room and I have like big wardrobe.
Oh,
Thanks for creating agenda.
yeah.
Yeah, we can start with formal part.
Okay.
Like 5 minutes anyways, and others can join in the process. So open let me open agenda. Yeah, so agendas, and today is 27th. Yes, so just in case if anybody want to join, I will send it in the chat. Yeah, so let's start from a first point, and as usual, if you're watching this, like I know for sure Sahaj already signed all these papers, but if you're watching this recording and want to join, you need to sign a membership agreement, participation guidelines, and code of conduct. You can find this link in the agenda. You can sign it as individual. You don't need to ask your boss or legal departments. You can just sign it as yourself. Yeah, and we can jump to second point is about introduction. Hi, my name is Ivan, and next to you, Sahaj.
Hi, I'm Sahaj. I think that's it for today.
I don't know, like, yeah, one thing is probably we need to create agendas in advance, like.
Yeah, I forgot. I remembered like when I went to bed last night that I forgot to open one.
I'm forgetting it every time. So like,
I'll probably just add like all these in like one pull request like for this year, and then it will be easier. So at least people can. Yeah, I'll just do it after this thing. So it's like,
yeah, one thing we can do, because right now it's like a little bit harder to find because we have 2 years.
Oh yeah, no, I will make folder like how we did in the main working group.
Yeah.
I'll just make like year folder and then we'll just put them in.
Yeah, and yeah, just in case if anybody like mention it somewhere, don't move like existing files, but it would be a little weird, but people can reference like stuff. We don't break
okay.
links. It's not big deal, it's just a weird, like we have like four months in the main folder, and like actually I think like this working group is less reference, so maybe like moving. It's up to you to decide. I'm okay with any scheme. Yeah, it just like now it's a little bit harder to find like years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So review agenda. Yeah. So you added a couple of topics, and we have, I think we have 1 hour schedule. Yeah, 1 hour schedule.
A quick one today.
Yeah, we can do a quick one. So action item from previous meeting. Don't think we have it filed, but I'm like released version of 16. Yeah, for branch out, update a branch. And hi, Alex.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. We skip official part, and now there is agenda link in the chat, and now we're discussing action items from previous meeting. So I'm like telling I created new release and branch out 16x and did the necessary changes for 17 and start doing like breaking changes and merging breaking changes. So we're on track on that. I wanted to finish ESM only. I have it locally, but I didn't like push it or merge it. After ESM only, I think it's enough breaking changes to release Alpha 1. So
Okay.
yeah, like tomorrow, like definitely this week, probably tomorrow, I will release Alpha with ESM only. And so at that point, we can like ask people to test, because like big things that we currently know of, big breaking changes that we expected is done. There is like some other breaking changes, but it's not like we know for sure they're happening in advance. It's like what we had on the table, like and universally agreed. So I think it's enough scope for alpha release. Other than that, yeah, about the hedge, I figure out like configuration with repo. So yeah, and you test and merge like couple of PRs, so that thing is working. And you're in the same group with all other maintainers except Yakov. So it should work not only for you, but for 3 other maintainers. So yeah, and not sure about timeline, but I will try to see about automatic npm publish. I'm not sure like it details how to do it, but yeah, I will look into it. And like if something happened, you can reach like an time disappear. You can reach Ali or other people from foundation, and they like give you npm access. Or I think technical steering committee. There is like 10 people there, so somebody will respond. Yeah. About opt-in, I'm honestly I'm not sure
I think
about.
this was old. I think I forgot to remove this one.
Yeah. Yeah, just like quick update on StreamDFR. I'm actually like previously I was a bottleneck, but right now there is like some discussion, big discussion on format. So I'm not sure like what's the status of it. I need to speak with Rob, but definitely Rob prepare like I think two separate PRs. Like he have a stack of 3 PRs, and 2 of them like not related to StreamDFR in any way. So I will. It's like one due, and I will work on merging them first. About StreamDFR as a full, I'm not sure of its status, because like people discussing changing like the entire response format, which is kind of big. Yeah, it's I will probably need to ping Rob before next working group. So anything else from anybody on action items?
I think you have like the instance of action item to prepare
Instance
demo.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
Instance of, I think actually like right now it's a good place to experiment, since we start alpha thing and like release alpha 1. It's good way to experiment with instance of like with different thing about instance of, like process of instance of and other things. Like ideally, the same thing we discussed, like Webpack, and I remember about it, but it's down in my pipeline. It's to create a test case for Webpack with like instance of, but yeah, in similar idea is either write explanation or write tests. An experiment, like give up people opportunity to create a solution that ticks all the boxes. I'm like not sure if it exists, but since it's causing so much pain, like it should be like combination of test and explanation and like written requirements or on what working solution should have. Yeah, so no progress on that at the moment, but right now it's like a right stage to address that. And on that note, there is hi Yakov. On that note, there is Ben from Apollo proposed some like totally alternative solution with. So I need to speak with him if he wants to document it somehow. So yeah, short answer: no progress on that topic, but
okay.
He right now is the right
We can
stage.
discuss next one. Next one.
Yeah, and I will put a note to take it in the pipeline and have like something that we have to something that we can discuss, like for example set of requirements or like tests, or and if we all agree it's like requirement and maybe potential solution. So since we have short agenda, I propose to do it like that. We will go through items we have right now, and if Alex or Yakov have like additional agenda items, we can discuss them after we discuss like agenda items that we already have in pipeline. Everyone agreed with that? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So server access contest. Yeah, I saw it. I need to find. I think it was addressed by Lee somewhere. And since I just don't want to like reiterate arguments, I need to find it. I did a quick search but didn't find it. But like idea and idea about this issue, it's like scholars are used not only during execution, they use during like schema building, schema validation, and like there is no context during schema validation. And to be honest, I think it's like major thing to introduce context during validation.
I think, yeah, that's what this person like on the last comment is like, context should be passed to everything in the response cycle. So I guess,
but explain him it's not a response cycle. So graphical, you can make a point that graphical can also have a context, like through settings or through like browser, for example, can choose figure out, like graphical can figure out a language for something and pass it as a context. But yeah, I'm like, it's yeah, I think like a root cause for this issue is a different one, and it's better suited as maybe the article or conference talk, is that GraphQL validation is not designed to be user validation. So in a sense, you should not show errors to end users. It's more like programming errors or exception, and you should not show exceptions or programming errors to end users. So I think, yeah, we need to clarify to that person if he want to show errors from GraphQL.js to end users. It's like, even if like after some discussion we had context, it's not things that we want to do or design to do. It will require like a bunch of things. For example, like error messages became stable API, so we cannot like easily change like errors because people will depend on it. I'm like, the entire thing is,
yeah, it's too big. Like if we have to provide context, it's too big of a change. And I don't think it's like I don't feel like it's necessary, but I don't know, because they presented a use case, so I can't be like, I mean, we can present them like a better solution to their use case.
or like figure out like big thing about that. If use case, yeah, we need to ask about that. But if use case is provide errors to end user, not like to programmer, but to end user, with use cases out of scope. It's like it's not what GraphQL was designed to do. And the recommendation, it's like it's not written somewhere official, but idea, like if you have validation errors you want to show to a user, you need to do it as like union on response.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I wouldn't go this way to show user like what error it was. I would do like either a union, or I would like have a strong typing and somehow like,
yeah, for example, scholars can accept like people put in like regexp in the regexp validation in scholars and using the same regexp in user message. Even if this person like sure about his own errors, it's like Scholar libraries developed by people, they're not designed to show like client type errors, like good, they not provide good UI. UX, the idea is to provide good DX. So our errors is like for developers or for operation personnel to find it in the logs, things like that. Yeah. So probably solution is to ask about use case, and if use case is like user errors, it's not what we going to do. If use case it's like developers like without English language knowledge, it's still like, yeah, but we need to ask this person first, I think. Yeah, about validation. Wow. So about first topic, about passing context in scholars. Any other argument, discussion, or proposal? And by the way, I'm totally happy if anybody like answer like that or similar issues from like even your personal standpoint. It will like create community discussion. So if nothing, nobody adds anything, we can switch to second one. And second one, thanks for bringing this up. I'm like missed that it happened like 15 hours ago. And yeah, wow, this person like did
They did too much. Yeah, they did everything we need.
Huge job.
Yeah.
So yeah. I need to review it. Yeah, thanks for bringing it. Like yeah. So what I will write to that person basically? Question here is like it's a champion is required. It's a lot of effort on both sides, GraphQL.js and Spec, and it's like it should be one person like handling this. So if this person wants to be champion for aligning Spec and GraphQL.js, it's not necessary. One thing I don't want to do is like to just change GraphQL.js in order to match Spec. I think there is like some valuable things in GraphQL.js that can be backported to Spec. So that's why I think it's like changes from both sides. It's not like one or two. And yeah, it's a lot of work. Oh wow! But I'm surprised. Yeah, it's actually the thing I'd ask for. So yeah, I will ask this person.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks about that. I think I personally know him. So yeah, I spoke with him once, I think. So very cool. Yeah. Anybody want to like say anything about that point? My only emotion is like amount of work this person did. It's like huge.
Yeah, they did a good job for
yeah, yeah. I'm opening like a tab to not forget. So I have a tab in my browser. I need to answer that thing.
Okay.
Yeah, super. And I think biggest one, it's number 7. It's about schema first approach to GraphQL.js. Sage, can you provide the context on that?
Yeah, so like today GraphQL.js, if you want to like create a schema, like I mean a full executable schema, you like your only way is like code first kind of approach where you do like GraphQL like where you do like objects like types, GraphQL integer type and stuff like that to create like a schema. The other way is like you could do class based approach to create your GraphQL schema. I think Ivan has like a repo as example for this one. And then the third approach like that community uses is like SDL first. So you define your SDL in one file, and then you have like resolvers for that in some other place. And today the limitation with GraphQL.js is like you could build a like you can define an SDL, you'll get a document node. So you could technically have a schema but that schema is not executable. So you need a way to like add resolvers to that schema. So that is what this proposal is like. So in GraphQL tools, we have this add schemas to resolver function, which is just like a helper utility to create like executable schemas. So having some because I mean this kind of approach with like SDL first we see a lot, like many people are using it, like, and this is like one of the like if you want to do SDL, GraphQL tools is one of your biggest dependency, and like this is like a small function which we can provide as a utility for people who are trying to like we can just port over GraphQL tools utility for adding resolvers to schema into GraphQL.js itself officially, because it has been there for a couple of years now and many people are using it in prod. So that's
couple clarification. Like it says DL first, because when you say schema first, like any GraphQL API is like schema.
oh yeah, my bad. I
Yeah,
mistyped.
it's
I'll
DL first.
fix it.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised. Just like terminology. So yeah, I think I need to, one thing I need to do just in case we're missing something is to ask Lee, because Lee for a long time he opposed that, but I don't remember clearly reading his motivation. Like he
Okay.
didn't like.
I can bring this up in like working group and like we can discuss there if you want. I can write up an issue or something and we can have
I
to.
think you know what we can try. It can be either me or you to write him email
Okay.
and ask if he thinks it's good for like, because for working group maybe
I can write an issue and then like I can send it to him and then like I can ping him
okay.
and then if he replies then okay, if not we can just move forward or something.
Yeah, a couple like historia trivia. GraphQL tools was created by Apollo, and I think it has the same name, GraphQL tools. And one of the reason why it was created is exactly that. So I think one of the first function, or like the first function, was to add resolvers to a schema built from SDL. So I think like this is something like 5-year-old or 6-year-old issue. And I think like both approach code first and schema first has own pluses and minuses, but SDL first is not dying. It's not like fast. It's not like something that was popular for a period of time and became less popular. So if it's like this question up for like 5 years, people should be able to attach resolvers to schema. One thing I'm like, last time I checked, I need to recheck it. I have some question about formats. Like,
Can I just jump in
Yeah.
with one quick thing?
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the default implementation is, like what the name of the function is now. But from what I recall, GraphQL tools originally added the resolvers in place, meaning it mutated the original schema. I'm not sure if that was Lee's original hesitation. Eventually, as part of a reorganization of code, there's a new way of doing it that uses the map schema function that creates a new schema, and the GraphQL tools map schema function that rewires everything similar to like the sort lexicographic schema does, but the map schema is like a generic version, and it uses that to create a new schema that doesn't mutate the original schema. And that was originally thought, I think, if I'm remembering, that maybe that would be more palatable to integrate upstream. But then it turns out that it's actually quite expensive or slow to recreate the entire original schema when all you really want to do is add the resolvers. To some extent, it's a special case. You're not really mutating the original schema. You're sort of finishing it off to finishing the creation of a now an executable schema. So I'm not sure what the default is now. We added an option basically to mutate the original schema, like it's like an add resolvers in place option or something like that. So when we talk about, I guess, what we might want to have upstream, I'm pretty sure, but I do want to ask which version we would want. I'm pretty sure we would want the quicker one, the special case one, where it does mutate the original schema, because that works better, and that's what people really want. But it does carry that wrinkle that it's to some extent finishing off or mutating the original schema. That's one small point, and then another small point about terminology. I'm going to save for a second because I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Sorry, like last part I missed one. So about first point, right? So asking opinion about first point before saying second point, right?
Yeah. There's a second thing that I wanted to add, but I think we should talk when we're asking Lee, for example, why exactly didn't you like this? Is it now that SDL is, maybe we want to focus a little bit on which version, because there's that wrinkle about whether we want to mutate the original schema, do we not want to? It's faster, it's a little bit more dangerous. Is there another way to handle it?
I would say for me, mutating schema is out of question, like totally, because there is like valid cases for extending schema, or like if you mutate schema, it's like potentially it's create like a lot of consequences, unexpected one. For simple use case, it's not a problem. For complex use case, it's a problem. Solution. So maybe we can change the question. Add to, should we have it as separate function, or should we have it as part of build schema? Because if we have it as part of build schema, it's like schema created, or build and extend schema created and stuff assigned. At the same time, nothing is mutated. Or versus we should have like separate function that create new schema with resolvers attached. I think this two can be an option, but like mutating schema is, for me, it's like, it's problematic, and it's like even hard to debug with this kind of issue. Since types can be shared between the libraries, or between, like, for example, you can have a schema for a different schema for different type of users, like rows. Different rows can have different schemas. So you have base schema, and you like create, so, and you mutate core schema, like shared types. I'm against mutating 100%. It's like, for me, it's like deal breaker.
Okay, I mean that sounds good. I think integrating into build schema would accomplish everything that people need. So how's that? I don't know if you have a thought.
I think I think build schema makes sense more than mutating one, but I can discuss internally what others think, and I can get back on that one.
A question: how performance, like, is it hypothetical thing about performance, or is it practical thing about performance? Is it like this thing was?
I think I didn't experience the problem directly. I can try to search through the archives, but definitely people at the guild have I think Arda in particular, I think has might have some actual times on it, but I think it wasn't a theoretical concern. I mean, it was a real optimization.
Yeah, if it's not theoretical, because one thing, like, maybe it's not a big issue per se, but in general, design is to separate these schema things into separate functions. like because, for example, I don't know if it's an issue or not, but if you build schema from introspection, you cannot attach resolvers. If we add like to build schema, the extend schema, it's mean like you create schema from introspection and cannot attach resolvers. Probably it's not something that people want, but ideally we have separate function, like if for a case where you create schema however you want and then just want to attach resolvers. But if there is like performance, like real performance issues, then we can figure out like, yeah, so one thing I want to be sure that we solve like real thing with performance, because for me it's like startup time thing mostly. I don't think anybody creating schemas on fly. If people creating schemas on fly, they like should have other issues, like validation is expensive and everything else is expensive. So like I want to see use case.
I think the original I forgot his name, the original author of schema stitching, who did it for Apollo, but he, for example, sent a PR, I think, to GraphQL tools at some point, disabling schema validation. He or she actually, I think he might have the numbers. I forget the name, but he sent a PR to GraphQL tools saying that one of the most expensive parts of schema creation is the validation. And since when there are options to disable that in GraphQL.js, and he said, we should pass those through. So I think people who are worried about performance are also skipping the validation, to make a long story short.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I just figured out, for example, lambdas. If people doing like GraphQL on lambdas, startup time, big GraphQL APIs on lambdas, startup time, yeah, makes sense for them. Yeah, so yeah, I need to think about it, but yeah, so two options that we have right now, like build schema or separate function. It's work for me. It's not like deal breaker, like mutation. So yeah, I'm like, I think we need to just like write pros and cons and have like use case. But yeah, I think like startup time, thinking about that startup time is valuable for something like, if it's increased dramatically, yeah, it's a bad thing.
The other thing was to preempt your question about nomenclature. Basically, everything that in the add resolvers to schema function, it's not really resolvers, as you sort of pointed out. It's anything that is not in the SDL. So it means any function, whether it involves scalar parsing, serializing, all that stuff is doable by add resolvers to schema. And unfortunately, the function, I guess, is poorly named, I guess, or started off with resolvers, and it really includes like any functions, which field resolvers, type resolvers, serialize, parse, whatever there is. So that's just a question of how we might name it, but that's might be what you were alluding to.
Yeah, so not a naming but format. It's like for things. It's also have like resolve type and have like how I forget the name of function. Instance of or is type of also, and the resolve type, and I think it's used like $sign. or something like that. So I'm like, one thing, since it's reference implementation, maybe we need to explore like new format if we want to add it. I'm not remember exactly like what was my problem with like a format, but
The main format is that for objects and interfaces, which then copies the resolvers into the objects, which is another optimization. There's those are a map with the type name, the field name, and then you also have the option, however, to I think it's within the fields, and you can override any property of the object, because again, it mutates everything in place, and you can use a double underscore before that, not a $, but something similar, and then you can basically, yeah, so you can modify anything. So you might want to change the format, and so the default is if you don't use anything, like for fields, you don't like name the property you're defining, it assumes that it's the resolve property and you're giving a resolver, but you could change lots of stuff.
Yeah, one thing I would definitely do if we attach like separate functions, I would just do like top level properties like scalars, enums, and like objects or something. Because like currently type of like instances, it's a mess. It's like everything in one object. You can do like TypeScript unions, but it's like, yeah, and if it's used on double underscore, it can be problematic for introspection fields if people want to attach, like, I don't know why, but yeah, yeah. So what I'm saying is I'm like, see value of this function, and I think we should add it. But I'm like against copying what GraphQL tools do right now without design discussion. So
yeah, actually, just to correct the record, because I'm realizing I made a mistake, although I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but the double underscore was the original version way back in, like, I don't know, version 3, I guess, of GraphQL tools, and then they still support that, but now you're encouraged to pick the property names based on the config object for the the scalar or whatnot, or the field, and those are and that's the better way of doing it. So yeah, anyway, just to correct that.
yeah, and another thing I just remember, if we decide to put this object into build schema, we need to also implement other make executable schema type behavior. Like, for example, allow you to pass a couple of documents, because if resolvers are assigned inside the function and you can pass only one document, and you're doing like validation, and you need to do validation because people can mistype type name or something, you need to create error if person pass resolver to unknown type. So combination of these three requirements, or requirements, you need to do validation, and you pass stuff into build schema, means like build schema need to start accepting multiple documents. So I'm like saying we need to start design process, but yeah, but it's not like a case of just copying function. And maybe we can do it in like stages, design like how user experience will look like and what steps we need to do for that. but I'm
Okay.
like,
Sounds good.
I'm and to be sure, like I'm for make executable schema experience, ideally. So since it's reference implementation, people use SDL, people should be able to, it's like long-standing issue. People raised this issue like 3 or 4 years ago. If we make investments, this investment should result in people being able to use SDL with GraphQL.js, vanilla GraphQL.js. So like if you start all this effort for utility function for like some other libraries, it's like it's not, it's big a lot of work for like small result. But if you start with saying basically like you can build the reference implementation support building SDL schemas from SDL without hacks, executable schemas for SDL without hacks. I think it's like a lot of work, but result is really pays for that work. Yeah, and anyone would say like anything else before we switch to other topics, if we have any? So, and result for my part, it would be great if somebody champion that and like write requirements for like how the end result will look like. Person who have like SDL in one file or couple of files, maybe some other scenarios, and how usage will look like of like very simple server. And we can discuss it from there and figure out what steps we need to do. Ideally, issue, and we can ask Lee about his opinion. Maybe he see like some problem.
I don't think we can do like multiple files loading, because that's like loading multiple files is a separate problem altogether, because that would make it too much node specific only.
No, I mean like
I understand, like just make a simple example like how the API would look, but you said like have schema on multiple files and then combine it together. That kind of thing would require like node only things.
No, I mean like using fs read file. Example can be node specific.
Okay.
It's like everybody more or less can understand what fs.read file sync.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just like in case like imagine people ask about this for like years, and we release this thing, but it works only through one file, or you need to manually concat files. We have like this function concat ist, but yeah, it's probably not what people want. People probably either want manually open this file or use like some loader or some like third-party thing to get array of strings. So yeah, ideally we support that. Otherwise, we like say people, you can finally use SDL properly, and we fail like with very simple scenario, and popular one. So yeah, I'm want to prevent that. And also ideally study what make executable schema doing, because I think basically like schema that functions that you refer to, it's like specialized one, but yeah, from top of my head, we need to do validation. So if person provide resolver for non-existing type or non-existing field, we need to error on that. Otherwise, it's like bad developer experience and stuff that it's hard to debug basically. Like things like for validation, maybe something else. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Anything else on this topic? Anybody want to then suggest alternative approach or something? If no, we can switch to like now we have two options. One we can finish, or if Yakov or Alex or UserH have any other point for discussion, we still have 8 minutes.
Yeah, I wanted to give you all an update on client controlled nullability. There's a few PRs open right now. The Apollo iOS most recent alpha release is relying on one of the Canary releases. I wanted to see if y'all thought that would be a problem, and I also wanted to see what I need to do to get reviews and move my outstanding PRs along.
Yeah, it's I'm probably, but do you refer like PR with just a syntax stuff that we discussed, like just like parsing and printing and that's all? Yeah, so yeah, if that without the execution, yeah, I found it. So yeah, and it's
there's one with execution and one without execution, and the one without execution is just the stuff that you asked for. The Apollo release is relying on the one with execution because there's one function in there that it needs, but I can move that function over to the one without execution if
yeah, which function? Strip ignore characters.
we need the one there's one that takes into account the schema and the operation and figures out what types what the return types of things.
Yeah, we need that. Yeah, so I'm like, that is straightforward thing. Basically, since you probably like know better than me, I actually missed like one working group this year, I think, about discussion about executing behavior. I'm like, I'm out of scope. They're right, but one thing I understand for sure, it's like it's not course topic. So I'm like, but syntax, I think more or less like discussed. So yeah, I will have on my part, and size is reasonable. It's 140 lines. So I will review it. Actually, I like partly reviewed it. Yeah, it's I'm bottleneck for that. And since we start alpha thing, it's even less issue. So we can release that stuff under alpha tag, and like if something discovered later, we can measure it. I will do quick look. This week would be good for you. I will keep 2 tabs open, one to respond to validation rules mismatch thing, and another about client control nullability. Yeah, idea is that I will just review it to be sure ICT structure makes sense and other things, and stuff is properly tested.
Yeah. I'll move that method over that I need to the one that's just the syntax, and then yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. That'd be good.
Yeah. So like feel free to move anything that don't touch like execution. If you need like visitor or like stuff like or validation rules, like validation rules that don't touch execution semantics.
Yeah.
Feel free to move it, or we can do it in stages. You can add more and more. I'm okay with both. Like if it's 1,000 line, it's reviewable. Plus, it's mostly test cases, and yeah, it's mostly like you have snapshots in your test cases. It's probably the major part. Yeah. So on this one, I'm bottleneck. I will put it in the list for this week to review it. And plus, you're not disappearing, right? So if we discover some issue afterwards, I will ping you and ask to fix it or change it or add.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, cool. I'll get that fixed up today. And yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Anything else to discuss? Any other topics that we don't have an agenda that you want to discuss before we finish? No. If no, it was a very productive meeting. We discussed like a bunch of things, especially like with SDL, attaching resolvers to SDL and client control knowability. Yeah, it's like so. Happy to see you next week, and hopefully we also discuss a bunch of issues offline, and we'll have progress on all the topics. Yeah. Bye.
Great. Thanks so much. Later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.